All right, guys, it is time. The brand new rod model from Megabass, the Orochi X10, is here. This is the complete breakdown of the new rod line. We've been talking about it for the last couple weeks. We've been getting tons of questions to just break it all down. So today we are going to go down the rabbit hole. We've had these rods in our hands. We've fished them a lot, casting, spinning, swim bait, bait finesse, the whole bit. So if you are interested in this rod line, want to see what Megabass is bringing to the market, let's have some fun. We're going to geek out on some rods. Let's go. Welcome back, my friends. I am Ben with the Hookup Tackle, Tackle Otaku on Instagram, being joined by the one and only Desert Bassin, my buddy CJ. What's up, dude?
Nothing much, man. How's it going?
You seem really far away.
Am I standing kind of far?
Yeah, I feel like, yeah, so far. We are here to break down an exciting new release from Megabass. This is the official full breakdown of the brand new Orochi X10 lineup, casting, spinning, and I'm going to apologize up front. This isn't necessarily designed to be like, you know, a commercial. I still have one with some wrapping on it, so I brought it out for this. But the rest of these we've been using pretty hard, so you're going to see some dirty rods. Some I just pulled out of the boat, so they got reels on them and stuff. But this is going to be a real breakdown. I'm going to give you guys insight to what myself and CJ and everybody here on the staff has experience with these rods, so you guys know what you are in for, model by model. Okay, so first, let's start out. I'm going to do this in a couple different ways, I think, CJ. So first, you know, the question that I keep seeing popping up and that keeps coming up is, you know, is this replacing Orochi XX, or, you know, is it better than P5 or whatever, right? And a lot of times when something new comes, it's all the hype goes to the new, right?
Of course.
So just to clarify with you guys, if you are Megabass fans, then you know that the Destroyer P5 is kind of regarded as like their top of the line main rod series. Now there are other rods that are more expensive than this. There's TS Destroyer, which is more of a swim bait specific series. There's Destroyer Evolution, which is kind of like just some nichier models. There's Arms Super Ligera that are custom built $1,000 rods, right? But the day in, day out, you know, premium rod line in the Megabass world is Destroyer P5. Now, below Destroyer P5, taking a step backwards in price, has been Orochi XX. Okay, these kind of exist in that $299 price point, where Destroyer P5 exists in that $499 price point. So basically a $500 rod line and a $300 rod line, right? Orochi X10 comes in right in between those two. Okay, so it's at a $399 price point. It is not replacing Orochi XX. It is not replacing Destroyer P5. It is a completely new rod that positions by itself in between those two. Okay, so if you are looking for the ultimate, you know, best rod that Megabass makes, the Destroyer P5 isn't going anywhere. They keep adding new models. This is, you know, the creme de la creme, right? This is the premium guy. If you're looking for a great bang for the buck, Orochi XX still fills that gap, and of course you have a Levante below that at $199. All those models are still making both of those, okay? Where Orochi X10 comes in is Orochi X10 kind of positions in between and is going to fill some holes and some gaps for you guys that are already invested into Orochi or P5 or Orochi XX, right? There are some models in X10 that aren't available in the other series. You're going to notice that most of these, you know, model names are not names that you're maybe familiar with, or, you know, are maybe, you know, throwback names that they're bringing back into lineup. So They're more of a nichier rod line. They're built more to be kind of, I'm going to just say junk fishing rods, even though I don't think it's really giving it full credit to what their capabilities are. But each rod is designed to be multifaceted. They're not designed to be specific, you know, just for this or just for that. Each rod is kind of built to be a universal rod for a variety of things within this bubble, so on and so forth. So you guys are going to find that there's some really cool gap fillers within this line. Now, cosmetically, Orochi XX, as you can see, every rod is going to have slightly different grip shape, trigger lengths, cork pieces, but at the end of the day, they're all kind of the split cork. They're a custom reel seat, which we'll talk about in a minute. They're, you know, metal lockdown to metal. It's kind of this beautiful kind of titanium with like a dark green, not really like a true forest green. It's kind of like an organic green, we're going to call it. And I'm going to get to that in a minute too.
Good play.
So if you're comparing cosmetics, here is Orochi XX to X10. You can see they're similar as far as, you know, overall construction and placement and, you know, thickness of blank, so on and so forth. When you compare P5, by the way, that was a jerkbait special to an Elzile, so I thought that was a fair comparison. This is a dark sleeper in the P5, so you can see the P5 still thinner rod, lighter rod all the way around, right? So we'll talk about the construction and what these things are going to do. So, step 2. I'm going to read you guys the Megabass copy because I want you to understand exactly what Megabass was going for with these rods. I will demonstrate and show you what they're talking about as we read through the copy. And then I'll go through the models that we've been using so you guys can have some actual feedback on what each model should be great for you guys for. Okay, so bear with me, slightly boring Megabass copy, but important for you to understand the point of doing Orochi X10. Okay, so this is from Megabass. The X10 is the most significant rod in the Orochi's storied history, opening the door of materials innovation to a better future. Inspired by the Japanese government's commitment to Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, which focus on global goals of social, cultural, environmental, and economic well-being, X10 integrates naturally derived blank materials to take another step towards better stewardship of our angling future.
Wow.
Okay? Yeah, only Megabass could write something so beautiful.
I could never.
If it was me, I'd be like, yeah, there's some organic stuff. It's going to be good for the environment,
It
right?
catches fish.
So, again, this is going to be a trend in fishing companies. You're going to see a lot of focus as countries and as continents put stricter things in place and expect more of brands to leave less of a footprint, to be more environmentally friendly. If that is the case, and it's a more environmentally friendly thing, then great. I mean, we're all enjoying the environment. Of course, we want clean water and clean air and, you know, better health for everything. This is the next part is the important part, because just because it's environmentally friendly doesn't mean it's good. Right? Sometimes it doesn't really do anything for us, and sometimes it's just kind of like fluff.
Yeah.
Right? So like tungsten comes to mind for me. Like you know, tungsten is supposed to be more environmentally friendly, but if you really look at how tungsten is made, it's a way larger carbon footprint to make tungsten. The amount of heat that's required to make tungsten is so much greater than just pouring lead, right? So there can be debates on both sides, but here's the fun part about the organic fibers, okay? X10 organic fibers harness flax cellulose microfibrils, the orthogonal layers that provide much of the structure of plant walls. Yeah,
I'm impressed.
bear with me,
I'm
okay?
impressed.
College was a long time ago, and it was only for a short amount of time. Fishing got in the way. We've talked about this before. So let me just read these big words, okay? Deployed in select Porsche and BMW racers, natural fiber is quickly emerging as a viable alternative to artificial carbon fiber in select applications due to its superior dampening and shock-absorbing characteristics. Experimenting with this material throughout the blank production process, Megabass engineers selected X10 as a finishing wrap that extends from the rear grip to the midsection. Okay? So basically what that's saying is this process of using this flax cellulose microfibrils, this is something that race cars have been doing already. If you pay attention to, any type of Indy type racing, race cars are getting lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter, more aerodynamic, faster, right? So the use of organic materials actually is lighter in this case than carbon fiber. Okay, so it's lighter, and what they're finding is that if you use the right blend, it has this really interesting way of kind of dampening the overall fastness of carbon fiber, which will relate back to the angler, and I'll get back into that here in a second, okay? Carrying on from Megabass. The proprietary organic fibers of the X10 exhibit several unique characteristics. Firstly, they are lighter than their carbon counterparts. Yeah, see, I'm smart.
There you go.
Yeah. Secondly, organic fibers exhibit superior dampening properties, suppressing the blank's unwanted axial shake. I'll expand on that in a second. This not only reduces extraneous noise to channel key information to the angler's hands, but tames excess vibration for a quicker blank recovery rate and reduced angler fatigue. Lastly, X10 is highly shock absorbent, adding a protective layer to the shield the blank's carbon fiber core from external stressors. Basically, what that is saying, and what we are going to experience, is the X10 is basically an overall wrapping of the bottom section of the blank. Basically what it does is it reduces any type of rod twist in your hand. So whether it's on casting or twitching, or most importantly like hook set and fighting fish, you guys will notice that the rod is a really high performing rod and very intuitive to your movements. You're not going to experience a hook set where the rod slips or twists in your hand. It reduces that for you. It also kind of dampens the overall quickness, I would say, to your response, which equals greater hook sets. Okay, so it's not necessarily a sensitivity damper, right? The rods are super sensitive, but it just slows, it's just more of a fluid reaction, I would say. You're not caught off guard by this like thunk, like sometimes you can be with a P5 or, an NRX or some of those ultra sensitive rods where it just vibrates so hard through you. When the bite happens, it happens and is feeding you info in a way to where your hook set is gradually more fluid. It's hard to explain without using it, but that's basically what you should expect. A more fluid experience. The rod is intuitive to, what you want it to do, and it's basically reducing any fatigue and twisting, whether it's from the cast. Like if you have a heavy bait, and we're going to talk about some of these bigger rods, you can throw a heavy bait all day. The rod's not twisting or flexing in strange ways that's putting any undue pressure on joints. They're just a really enjoyable series of rods to use. Okay, almost done. The core blank of the Orochi X10 leverages the ultra lightweight carbon graphite of the Destroyer series. Produced with a special composite method, the premium carbon material delivers a kind of sharp sensitivity and crisp control that has led to Destroyer's legendary outperformance. Wrapped around this high-performance core from the midsection through the base of the rod is the X10 organic fiber composite. With its superior dampening control, it enables a more direct and intuitive connection between angler and equipment, exhibiting a blank flex that is a joy to experience. So basically, they're taking a very similar carbon that's used in P5 Destroyer. It's not built the same way. P5, if you guys remember, is kind of that 5D graphite build. So this is a slightly different build construction, but it's that same high quality material that's going to transmit sensitivity. It's going to be incredibly strong. And then with the overwrapping of X10, you're going to get just a really fun experience on the water. You guys are really going to enjoy these rods. Now, there's more to it as well. Each reel seat has been custom built. If you guys notice these reel seats, there's lots of parts kind of, cut out. These are called IAS reel seats. Each rod has a slightly different seat to it, but they're designed to be minimalistic in nature so that your hand is experiencing the blank anywhere it can. Triggers are different shapes based on the power of the rod so that they hold better in your hand. Some rods are built to be more tip up balanced. Some rods are built more to just be a perfect, kind of steady, balance. So they're built in different ways. You're going to have metal lockdown on the front, metal lockdown where your hand's going to be, so sensitivity is transmitting to you very quickly. Okay, so there is the rough overall breakdown. Now, I also had a spinning rod so that I can show you the spinning rod grip, because I love the grips on the P5s, that carbon grip. I absolutely love them, but it's kind of a polarizing grip. A lot of guys aren't big fans of that grip, so they've gone with more of a traditional front grip here, to where you have the cork so that it's comfortable, but your hand's still going to sit on the blank after you have the reel on it. So no matter where you have, it's kind of a shorter, stubbier, but super comfortable grip on the spinning as well. Let's run through the rod line. I'm going to start maybe from smallest to biggest, and I'll just give you guys some feedback on what the rods were built for, what our experience has been, so you guys can make an informed decision if you're interested in this line.
Man, I feel like we just got out of story time in class.
I know. Okay, let's do this. Let's actually start with spinning. So there's going to be 4 spinning rods in total. I'm going to talk to you guys about 2 of the spinning rods. So there are 2 other ones. There's a Hibaraki and a Yamakagashi that are F1 and F2.5, kind of just lighter overall use rods. They're not rods that I think are going to have a lot of game here in the US. They're kind of like ultralight and light. But if you guys are into super light line, little tiny finesse type stuff, they might have some game. They're going to also have some good crossover game for, like, trout type fishing and that kind of stuff as well. So could be a rod that you're interested in, but the 2 that I'm going to talk about right now are the ones that everybody's going to really be interested in, and that is the Medusa and the Jade Python. So we'll start right here with the Medusa. So the Medusa, and again, I apologize, we've been using these. I just went and grabbed them out of the boat, so I wanted this to be kind of as organic as possible, no pun intended. By the way, Orochi X10, okay, if you're curious why the name X10, I'm going to break this down for you. From Megabass, the project is codenamed X10, okay? And what that means is X for the ineffable spirit of the Orochi, 1 for the first bass rod utilizing the new material, and O for the organic fibers. Okay, so actually it's X10, but we're just going to call it X10. Okay, so that's what the code name there is for that. And some of the rods, like this is the part that's got the wrapping. Some of the rods, you can even see some of the organic strands running through, not often. And sometimes it takes like a special light to hit it. But for me, it's a beautiful rod. I think you guys are going to dig it. So here's the Medusa. Okay, so let's talk about this guy. So this is an F3 611 with a stinger tip. Okay, so this, I'm going to give you the specs. It's 1/8 to 1/2 ounce, 4 to 12 pound, 611. So basically, it's an F3, so it's going to be kind of a true medium power, but it has a carbon stinger tip. Now, if you guys are familiar with stinger tips, this top basic foot section up here is going to be a solid carbon piece that's going to bend independently from the rest of the rod. The rod was really built as kind of an all-around finesse kind of drop shot rod. Right, so if you guys are nose hook drop shotting, if you're throwing a light little Ned rig, any of that finesse plastics, this is going to be a really good rod for you. Where most of you are going to find applications in this rod right now is going to be with strolling. Okay, so mid strolling, everybody loves that stinger tip because it allows them a slight dampening in the movement. Really important when you're mid strolling that bait has a full opportunity to roll left and right. And a lot of times when you're using straight graphite, the rod's just too fast. So no matter how light you think you're moving it, the rod is just, it's happening so fast that the bait doesn't give a chance to have a full roll. It just ends up with this like tighter kind of jerky motion, right? But when you use that stinger tip, it softens it. So as you're, twitching it, that blank is kind of softening it down. And it gives the bait a chance to roll. So this is going to be a very popular strolling rod for you guys. The other rod that's super dope is the Jade Python. Now, if you've hung out around this channel at all, you know that I'm a huge fan of the Windbuster. It's like my favorite spinning rod ever made. When I first picked up this rod, almost a year and a half ago now, almost 2 years ago now, when I first touched this, instantly I thought, dude, it's kind of like a baby Windbuster. And that really is the easiest way to describe it if you guys are familiar with the Windbuster. This is an F3.5 70 XTS. So 1/8 to 5/8, 6 to 16 pound, has a very similar kind of gradual bend to it. But what I would tell you is that this is a rod that from a soft plastic standpoint is going to be similar in action to a Windbuster, but on the lighter side. So where the Windbuster really wants to throw, 3/8 ounce, half ounce, maybe a quarter if you're using a beaver or like a heavier plastic. This rod, you can kind of do that lighter stuff as well. So you want to throw an 1/8, you want to throw a 3/16. I would maybe say it's going to top at 3/8 plus a bait. Okay, so just a lighter version. It is not going to be as responsive in the hard bait category as the Windbuster. Again, that Windbuster is just built special with that 5D graphite. It can handle a treble hook and it can handle a single hook, right? So it's just kind of a unicorn of rods.
Yeah.
This is going to be more focused towards soft plastics. Okay, so free rig, Texas rig drop shot, shaky head, wacky rig Senko. We chucked around a free rig on it, and it's super sensitive. I mean, you guys are going to feel everything that you would expect to feel. I do enjoy that grip. It's a super comfortable grip. So this will be a popular one for you guys. So that is the Jade Python.
It's a great 1-2 punch.
Let's jump into casting rods. And I'm going to go through this lineup from lightest power to heaviest power. So if you guys are new to Megabass, Megabass doesn't really do medium heavy, heavies. They do an F power. Okay, so it's basically a scale from like 0 to, well, infinity, I guess. But usually we see like a 0 through 10 type rating, right? So all their rods will be like this one, for instance, is an F 1.5. 6.5 XT. So what that means is F power is 1.5, so that's kind of on like the ultralight side, and then 6.5 is the length, 6 foot 5 inches. Okay, so this is the X10 Cliffhanger. This is going to be a bait finesse rod. Okay, now the Cliffhanger is a rod that has kind of been in every lineup of Orochi, Destroyer, even Evolution. Like the Cliffhanger always shows up. Okay, now the last few versions, and most of you guys are probably familiar with the P5 Cliffhanger. It's a beautiful, like, finesse jig, bait finesse soft plastics rod. It's short, it's kind of fast, but it's awesome for those soft plastics. But it's too fast really to be a great all-around hard bait finesse. This is extending the length to a 6.5, and it's building back in that softness. So for me, this rod feels much more like a one-piece Aiello than it does any of the previous versions of Cliffhanger. This is going to be a hard bait finesse rod first that still has capability of throwing some soft plastics. So if you guys are looking for just a really beautiful bait finesse rod, easy to fish, everything fits on it good as far as reels. So you could put like that Daiwa Pixie on there. You could put the Calcutta Conquest on there, the Aldebaran. They all fit it well. They all feel good. They all balance well. And it's just a really, it's kind of just a great all-around rod. So pretty straightforward on this one. I think you guys will enjoy it. But again, hard bait first, soft bait second. Just because of that kind of softness through there. But then you can see by the time you get to the middle of the rod, it fastens up and then you have backbow. Okay, so that is the Cliffhanger, rod number 1. Okay, rod number 2 is the Rapid Viper. Now this is an F3 610, 1/4 to 5/8, 8 to 18 pound. This rod is a really fun small square bill rod. Mm-hmm. When I say small, meaning like 1.5, ones. I love throwing the Mad Bull for like my bigger square bills. But when you start going down to a smaller size, like a little Z1, or even like a Sonic side that maybe just weighs like 3/8 of an ounce, it can be hard to throw it on your big, heavy crankbait rod. The Rapid Viper handles it beautifully. It's got lots of power, but you can see it's nice and soft basically all the way through that rod. It's bending all the way down to the first guide. So it has that true crankbait bend characteristic to where it loads very easy, it casts very easy. Now, it is a relatively light rod, so you're going to want to match it with a reel that's on the lighter size. I had a Steez SVT wing on it. Perfect. But you could also get away with something like an Aldebaran, a 70 size, a Steez CT. Griff had a Calcutta bait finesse on his, a Conquest bait finesse. So you can do lots of different things, but you want to make sure that your reel is either on the smaller or lighter side, but pretty much a straightforward small crankbait rod. Now, there's not a lot of other things it's going to do. So I would say 1/4 to 1/2 ounce, but that 1/4 and 3/8 ounce is really where it's going to shine for you guys. Treble hook style bait. So it could be just a straight moving topwater, it could be a wake bait, it could be a crankbait, but that lighter size that you throw a lot, that I throw a lot, it's perfect for that. So that's the Rapid Viper. Moving up, we have the Jabberwock. Now this is an F4 6/8, so 1/4 to 3/4, 8 to 20. This is where the rods start kind of becoming a little chunkier. And I mean junk in the nicest way, bougiest way possible, right? This is where the rods start really crossing over and giving you the ability to do many different things. Now, the Jabberwock is designed as kind of an all-around hard bait rod for baits that need a little bit faster rod. So, you know, a jerk bait, a walking topwater bait, maybe an in-between crankbait, like a Deep X 200, Deep X 100, where you don't want the rod to be super soft because you're kind of fishing it maybe around some riprap or some trees, and you want the rod to be a little bit faster just to handle maybe some ripping out, a light lipless, like that would be good. So you can see it's got a relatively soft tip. It has I would say a medium parabolic kind of midsection, but then it kind of cuts off about exactly in the middle of the rod. So you have power on the lower section, you've got some some forgiveness here, and then you've got like a nice soft tip. So it's kind of a good blend of everything. You can twitch baits with it really easily, you can walk baits with it really easy. I would say 1/4 to 1/2 ounce. I wouldn't go anything bigger than a 110 on this rod because you're going to overload it. Now, because it kind of cuts off, you can also throw like lighter Texas rigs, you can pitch a wacky rig with it, you can do something like a weightless Senko, and all of that works really, really well also for that. So kind of a good all-around, if you like a shorter kind of all-around use rod, Jabberwock will be a good one for you. Yeah, that's that.
Sweet rod.
Next in the line is going to be the Elzyle. Now you'll see this referred to as the Elzyle or the Super Elzyle, aka Jerkbait Special. Okay, this is an F4.5 611 XT lure rating, 3/8 to 3/4, 8 to 20. Basically, it's a Jerkbait Special. Okay, the Elzyle, the Elzyle is basically the first rod in the Megabass lineup that was designed kind of for jerkbaits. It's very similar in power, I would say, to like a 110 Special. So it's going to be a good one for like that, 110, +1, Ito Shiner, that 1/2 ounce to 3/4 ounce. That's really where this rod is going to shine. Struggles a little bit on the lighter stuff. So if you're looking to throw like a 110 Junior or a Junior +1, I think you're way better off still to stay in the P5 110 stick. For that larger stuff, it's going to perform great. It also has a lot of sensitivity to it, so you could use it for, light Texas rig or Senkos, that kind of stuff. But at the core of this rod, it is a jerkbait rod, walking topwater rod. It'd be a great 1/2 ounce, throw like a Diamante or a Gunfish or something like that. It's going to be a good all-around use rod for that. Is it going to replace my P5s? Nope. It's not quite at that level for me. I'm a huge fan of the 110 stick and the 110 Special. I think they have an amazing 1-2 punch. This one's really nice. It's very similar for me to the Orochi Jerkbait Special. So I like it. It's a really nice rod, but it doesn't fill a huge gap for me because I feel like Megabass is so encompassing already. But if you're starting fresh and you like this Orochi X10 line, then this will be a magical rod for you for this lane. Okay, so that is the Elza. Okay, next up is the Bandersnatch. So this is where the rod line starts becoming, well, I should say where I start becoming a little giddy. Because now we're filling some gaps that I feel like we really needed some gap fillers. So this is where it gets exciting for me. So here's the Bandersnatch. This is the F5 70 XT. So this is a 3/8 to 1 ounce, 10 to 25 pound. That's the rating on it. For me, this is basically a baby Mad Bull. Okay? If you've hung out around this channel, you know that I love the Mad Bull. It's like an all-around reaction rod. But really the Mad Bull is best above ½ ounce. It really loves throwing 5/8, 3/4, 1 ounce. It likes that heavier size reaction. This is capable of doing some of that heavier stuff, but this rod's actually good for like that 3/8 and ½ ounce stuff that I feel that the Mad Bull kind of struggles with. You can force it on it, but this one, it feels at home with it. That could be anything from a crankbait to a walking topwater bait to a spinner bait. Like there's so many things you can do with this rod, but at the core of the rod, it is relatively parabolic. You can see almost all the way down through the guides, it's going to bend. It's going to have a very natural loaded taper, so it's strong, but it's kind of that gradual taper. So you have lots of power. You can throw a heavy line on this. We basically threw 16 and 20 pound.
Yep.
On it through all of our testing, and the rod has lots of power to pull fish away from cover, but it does bend like a true crankbait rod would. Okay, so I think this is going to be a really interesting one for you guys, but I wouldn't push that 1 ounce mark. If you're really throwing a lot of 1 ounce stuff, 3/4 1 ounce stuff, Mad Bull's still going to be a lot better option. But if you're looking for a rod that's very similar but scaled down just a touch to complement your Mad Bull, that's where the Bandersnatch is going to be a really good addition for you guys. So there you go. That's a must-have, I think.
Yeah, that one's a sick rod.
Yeah,
you have to have that one.
Okay, the rod that I think was the most surprising in the lineup, okay, caught me off guard. This is the Destruction 66. Okay, this is an F6.5 6/6. Lure rating, ½ ounce to 2½ ounce. Line rating, 12 to 30 pound. Now, when I see a 6/6 rod that's rated at 2½ ounce, I just think like, oh, they made a killer code. Like, because that kind of exists already in P5, right? So I expected it to kind of be like that. But I can honestly say it's a completely different rod. This rod really surprised me. So it is built at its core to throw heavier baits like an iSlide, like an iWing, right? Maybe a Megadog X. Some of those baits that are 1.5 ounces to 2½ ounces, that's what this rod is built for. Maybe a 8-inch mag draft, right? Things that are normally heavier. It is short, obviously it's 6/6. It has a nice tip, but you'll notice that it kind of shuts down much faster than like the Killer Code. The Killer Code kind of bends all the way through the middle, which gives it a lot of power. This rod shuts down pretty quick. It's got double foot guides all the way up because it's built for heavier line, braid, big thick fluoro.
Really nice.
We actually, of all freaking things, we actually had our buddy Hideki from Teckle out here, and we were filming some Teckle frog videos, and he was throwing frog on it.
Yeah.
And it smoked every one of them. No problem. Tons of power, walks the frog good. So I think this rod, if you guys like a shorter rod, if you like that 6/6 rod, if you're shore fishing, if you're kayak fishing, if you're you like the shorter rod for skipability, for tight quarters, this is going to be a sleeper. This is going to surprise some people. It's not going to be right for everybody. A lot of guys just don't like a short rod. They like a 7-footer or 7.5 footer or whatever. Great. But it might fill a niche for you guys, and I think you'll find that you can do a ton of different things on it. Lure rating is crazy. 1/2 to 2.5, it basically is like everything.
Yeah.
So if Megabass makes it, you could throw it on this rod, basically. Again, I pretty much just used reaction on it. You know, frogs, larger, you know, glide bait, that kind of stuff. I didn't really throw any soft plastic, so I don't know exactly how sensitive it would be, but I don't know this is going to be a soft plastic rod anyways, because it's kind of soft at the tip. But it can certainly handle it. I mean, it's got the power if you wanted to flip or pitch or whatever, it could certainly do it. Okay, so there's the Destruction 66. My baby.
Yeah, would you say this is your favorite one?
I have two babies.
Okay. Talk about it.
This is the Bush Adder. So the F772 XT. Lure rating, 1/2 ounce to 2.5 ounce. Line, 12 to 30 pounds. Sound similar to Destruction 66?
A little bit.
Yeah, kind of the same, kind of the same lure rating. Bush Adder. This is kind of a big rod. It's thick. It's kind of heavy. I mean, it's much thicker than like a P5 would be, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's got a longer trigger. It's got one of those kind of notched triggers. It's got a different reel seat in there, right? I have a Steez A on it, by the way, just so you can gauge size, so you can see how it sets up.
That might be one of the bougiest setups I've ever seen.
It looks good like that, doesn't it?
It looks good.
The organic brown of the varial with the grain, yeah, it looks dope. Here's what I can tell you. Perfect pitch in Orochi has been like a staple for, it feels like forever, right? Like it's been a rod that has just had so much versatility to it. You could throw a 6-inch mag draft on it, you could throw a spinnerbait on it, you could throw a jig, you could pitch with it, right? That's kind of this rod in this lineup. So it's designed as a kind of a worm jig rod. Okay, that's the purpose of it. It has the sensitivity and the power to be able to throw a jig, to throw a worm, to pitch to cover, to skip docks. That's what it's built to do. But it's not super fast. So you can see that the tip is kind of soft, right? So softer than what I would generally think of as a jig and worm rod. So, you know, for me, like when I think of jig and worm, I think of like FMJ, like fast, quick, like let me skip it in there and boom, I want to feel everything, right, and hammer them down. This one's got a little bit of forgiveness on it. So what I found that it was perfect for me, 6-inch mag draft freestyle, 6-inch citizen, spinnerbait, skinny dipper, buzz bait, things where you have a, kind of that single hook like a jig and worm style, but that you need a little bit of tip still to present an accurate cast, to be able to cast fluidly, and to give you just a little bit of delay before you crack the whip on them, okay? So for me, it kind of just feels like the bougie or perfect pitch. That's really the easiest way for me to describe it. Kind of the rod to do everything for that kind of 1/2 to 1.5 ounce world that I live in a lot. I love the 6-inch mag. I love the freestyle. I love the citizen. I love a big spinnerbait, a 5/8 3/4 ounce spinnerbait. I love a buzz bait. Like this is stuff that I do all the time. So this is a rod that has a lot of game for me. If you guys are in the same boat, I think you're going to find it's going to become one of your best kind of bigger junk fishing rods.
That's by far the most fun rod in the lineup.
Yeah, I really dig this rod a lot. So that is the Bush Adder. Okay.
Don't you love the names?
I do. Now, this is my other baby. Okay. Caught a lot of fish on this week. Very happy.
You're still rigged up.
Yeah, I'm very happy with you. Good job. Good job. Now, this is the Swamp Survivor. Okay. So this is the F771 XT. Lure rating 1/2 to 3 ounce, 12 to 30 pounds. So again, another virtually same lure rating, right? So if Megabass makes it, you can throw it on this rod, basically, right? Swamp Survivor, similar to Destruction 66 in that it has double foot, double wrapped guides all the way up. It is built for high impact, heavy cover, heavy line, just power fishing, right? It's a sick rod. It's 7'1", okay, which is kind of a great overall length, I would say.
Yep.
Not too long. A lot of frog rods end up being 7'4", 7'6", and sometimes they're just too long to really get the frog to move, or even just pitching. Sometimes you're in close quarters, like we have a lot of like taller trees and limbs and stuff that we're always navigating around. It can be really hard to take a big, 8-foot flipping stick and try to push stuff through. So when this rod first came and we flexed it, you guys can see that it's still fairly forgiving at the tip. It's got a nice kind of soft tip. It even kind of bends into the blink a little bit, and then it gets super powerful. So when we first bent this rod and we got it, it's like, oh, it's gonna snap the first time we stick a fish, right? But fuck it, let's throw some 70-pound samurai on there and let's just push it, right? My first, probably 15 or 20 fish were actually done flipping. Straight braid, 5/8 or 3/4 ounce, beaver, skirt, flip it in the bushes, crazy sensitivity. Because it's short, it happens fast. You can set the hook very fast. It's got tons of power. And then the next few trips, we tied a frog on it. And it's an unbelievable frog rod. That soft tip allows it to really get that frog to work, but the power is there. So, I mean, you can just absolutely lay the wood to him, pulls him out of cover, crack the whip. It's a brilliant rod.
It really is.
Now, if there is a downside to the rod, it's kind of big. It's kind of a thick rod. If you guys like, so like my go-to frog rod normally is the poker, TS Destroyer poker. It's kind of big. It's kind of heavy and clunky. This reminds me a lot of that rod where it's kind of big, but it's a really fun rod to use. Once you kind of get over it, it becomes very intuitive. It's got a longer butt section down here that's nice for, like, you know, if you guys are flipping, you know, it's nice to have that little bit longer section. For frog, it kind of gets in the way a little bit, right? Like, even when we were fishing with Hideki, he's like, are you throwing a frog on a flipping stick? I'm like, no, it's just, you know, it's just a kind of a bigger rod, right? But once you kind of get adjusted to it, it's a sick rod, and definitely a frog rod that's been missing in the lineup from Megabass. So, you know, I'm super stoked for this one. This is definitely a hole filler for me. I'd put it up against any frog rod, really. So, there you go. There is the Swamp Survivor.
I love with the X10s how they change the grip depending on the model. Like if you're going through heavier duty stuff, they give you a little bit more of a reel seat to hold on to.
Yep.
And if it's more finesse, you can feel the blank.
Then there's more blank. Yeah. So like for instance, here's the Anaconda. So this is the largest rod in the lineup. So this is an F9 710. So lure rating 1 to 7 ounce, 16 to 40 pound. Just mirroring what CJ said, you can see it's a full reel seat on there, right? So there's no, like, you know, dainty little pieces. It's a solid grip because they know that you're gonna have a bigger reel on there. You're gonna need a little bit bigger rod, right? You've got an extended grip, so you've got a little longer swim bait grip back there. You got a big handle back there. This is a ferruled rod, so it is ferruled at the grip. This is a rod that also was desperately needed in the Megabass swimbait realm. So if you guys have been diving through the Megabass swimbait world, you'll know that we're huge fans of like the Mark 56, and we're huge fans of like the Blackjack. Those are two rods we talk about all the time. Mark 56 and the P5 is just a brilliant, like 1 to 3 ounce rod, shad glides, lighter glides. It's just, it just moves it effortless. Tiny clash, right? Blackjack is a brilliant, like 4 to 6 ounce rod. So Slide Swimmer 250s, you know, canines, that kind of stuff. Just super dope rod. But neither of them are really right for a soft bait. They kind of bend too deep. So to get to a soft bait rod, you kind of had to go to like a Jungle 7, which is more of a flipping stick, which works, but it doesn't have like that swim bait grip when you need to bomb a cast. Or you had to go way up to like hunting weapon or something that was just so stiff, King of Baccarat, right?
Yep.
This gives you now a true light, you know, just under 8 foot soft bait rod. And it's not a broomstick. It's really light, so you could use just like a normal, you could put a Steez A on here, you could put a Zillion HD, you could put a Corrado 200, or you could put a Tatula 300 or something like that. Jeff had Tatula 300s on here while he was using it, and he threw a glide bait on it first, smoked him on it. Switched it over to mag drafts, just laid the wood to him. 7-inch Citizen, 9-inch Citizen, like all that stuff, great on it. So you're going to see that it does have a little bit of a bend, so it's going to load, so you can still throw a glide on it. It's really, it shuts off really fast. So even though it has a bend, it's powerful. Like it's pretty much all butt section with just a little bit of give so that it can load and it can cast easy without twisting in your hand. But at its core, it's a soft bait rod. So if you guys are looking for a rod to throw a Citizen, 6-inch mag draft, 8-inch mag draft, 10-inch mag draft, you know, Huddleston, something like that, right? 316 weedless, something in that realm, this is going to be the rod. If you're looking for a glide bait rod, you're going to be better off with the Mark 56, the Blackjack, something, you know, Levante, Leviathan. Those are still going to be a better glide bait rod for you. Can you do both on this? Absolutely. It's got the lure rating for it. It's perfect. I wouldn't push the 6 ounce mark very far on this. So it's 1 to 7. 6 ounce really kind of starts, you can tell it's shutting down. Okay, so I would just cap it like that 10-inch mag draft size. That's going to kind of be the cap. But it's a lightweight, brilliant, super powerful rod. You could, I guess in theory, even use it as a flipping stick. I don't know why you would. I would just get the Jungle 7. It'd be way more comfortable, I think. Double foot guides all the way up as well. So there you go. All right, guys, one more thing about Orochi X10 before we wrap it. Orochi X10, because of the build process and how it's done with the organic fibers, and because it's kind of positioned in between these two rod lines that are still being produced on, you know, a daily basis, this is going to be more of a limited availability rod line than what you may be used to with Megabass. So if you're used to P5s, if you're used to Orochi XXs, if you're used to Levantes, then, you know, most of the rods, like the core lineup, we try to keep always available. And of course, there's times when maybe something sells out and, you know, we have to go a ways before they come back in. But those are kind of Megabass's core rod lines that they're constantly producing, trying to keep in stock. The X10 is not going to be like that, at least not for a while, okay? It's more of a limited production. So, you know, when these sell out, we might see a slight trickling, you know, over the next 6-7 months, but we're probably not going to see a big offering again for probably till the end of the year or maybe even next spring. Okay, so take the info. If it's something that's interesting to you, snag it up. You know, get what you guys need. Don't expect this to be something that's just kind of sitting around all the time. These are going to sell out because it's been a super anticipated rod. They released these in limited quantities in Japan a couple of years, maybe about a year and a half ago. So the nice thing about bringing them to the US is finally we have an actual production run of them, and you'll get the same 3-year Megabass warranty that comes with everything, you know, when they're purchased here. So that's nice. So there you go, guys. If you have any questions on the Orochi X10, whether it's from models, bait selection, anything at all, drop it down below and I will get answers for you. If you don't see this video until a couple days after we posted it, and you have some really important questions, shoot me a DM on Instagram. I'm much quicker there. You guys can reach me anytime. I will go down any rod rabbit hole you want to go down. It's my favorite topic. Hit me anytime. Of course, you can hit up Griff. You can hit up Ethan. You can hit up Julius, CJ, Jeff. We've all used the rods, so if you guys have any questions on them, you can hit any of us up. Thank you for your time. Thank you for letting me ramble on and read some big words that I don't know what they mean and play with one of my favorite new rod lines, the Orochi X10. CJ, thank you for the time, sir.
Thank you for the knowledge and the big words, sir.
Oh, you know, my pleasure. It's just what I do. All right, guys, we will see you again soon. Enjoy your afternoon. Peace.